U.S. Senator Tim Kaine took a short break from the campaign trail earlier today to sit down with American political scientist and analyst Larry Sabato in front of a full house at the Newcomb Hall Ballroom located on the University of Virginia campus. Sabato made it clear before the start of the sit-down that there would be no discussion about Kaine's re-election campaign or his GOP opponent, Corey Stewart.
This is not a campaign event. I will not ask questions about the 2018 Senate campaign. I will rule out of order any question you ask about the 2018 campaign. And don't make me cut down there.
Kaine answered questions from Sabato about Saturday's U.S. Senate vote to confirm Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court.
Is this the new normal? I mean, are we going to have to look at nominees or maybe even Supreme Court justices and apply a party label? You know, because I know I see them now in the paper, and I put an R or D next to their name.
Yeah. The Kavanaugh nomination was about three things, and I think fixing this is going to be really hard. But what's hard is fixing the Supreme Court nomination process. I don't think it's going to pollute everything else, and I'll kind of describe why. But the Kavanaugh nomination was about who should fill the vacancy of Justice Kennedy. It was also about the Senate in the aftermath of the shutout of Merrick Garland, and then how we're dealing, the combination of Merrick Garland not even getting an interview, much less a committee hearing or a vote, and the Republicans switching, for reasons that they would defend if they were here, the vote threshold from, you got to get 60 votes to get on the Supreme Court, which means there has to be some bipartisan support. They switched it to 50, so there doesn't have to be bipartisan support.
Kaine addressed his record of bipartisanship in the Senate.
But one thing you can do in your interaction with public servants, state legislators, congressmen, senators, if you ever interact with a public servant, and whether you're a Democrat or Republican or independent, ask them this question: hey, give me an example of something interesting you're working on with somebody on the other side of the aisle. Because if people in elected office hear that question from you all the time, then they'll know, oh, it's important. It's important to people that I do something on the other side of the aisle. I have had really good success in getting legislation passed. President Obama signed 11 bills of mine. Interestingly enough, President Trump has signed 17 pieces of legislation that I've done. And I do it the same way. You need to get 60 votes in the Senate. Neither party has 60. You got to find a partner on the other side. You find somebody that you can work on a matter together, and then you have to figure out the procedural way to get it to the president's desk. But I noticed that a lot of my, and why do I do it? Well, because I want to do good things. But I think Virginians want me to do that. Sure, be a proud Democrat, that's fine, but they want me to work together.
Following the sit-down with Sabato, Kaine fielded questions from the audience. Amongst those in the crowd were over 24 high school students from Peru and Bolivia, who are here in the United States under the Youth Ambassadors Program. The kids will spend approximately 3 weeks in the United States. The Youth Ambassadors Program is funded by the U.S. State Department and implemented by World Learning in partnership with the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. Jocelyn Romero asked the senator a question.
My name is Jocelyn and I come from Peru.
Excelente, Jocelyn. ¿De qué parte de Perú?
De Pucallpa.
Okay, excelente. Nunca he visitado.
How do you deal with criticisms when your ideas are welcome in the government, especially talking about minorities?
So the big question there, I mean, dealing with criticisms, I think part of the cool thing about being in the Senate is I don't have to be omniscient. You know, it's funny, when you're the governor or president, you're like the one person you sort of have to try to blend every view together to decide what you're going to do. But in the Senate, there's 100 people. And the idea is it would work better if you just are firm in your position and others are firm in their position, and then listen to each other. And then hope, you know, there's a Hegelian dialectic, the thesis, the antithesis, the synthesis, that we would know more if we listened to each other and argue and debate. So I don't particularly worry about criticism of my view.
We caught up with Jocelyn and asked her how she was enjoying her time in the United States.
Like right to forward, we're learning because of this opportunity, and I'm so sure that we're going to engage with this activity. We are in order to learn a lot of things, and thanks to United States of America for opening these doors.
UVA's Center for Politics Director of Global Initiatives told Breaking Through the 3-week exchange program is focused on civic engagement and multiculturalism. After spending a little less than a week at UVA, the youth ambassadors will travel to Seattle to stay with host families before going to Washington, D.C., and then back to their home countries. Of course, UVA is located in Charlottesville, Virginia, so it came as no surprise that the The 2017 White Supremacists Unite the Right rally came up during the Q&A session.
Charlottesville was definitely part of that backlash of people who don't like the increasing diversity of our society. That's what they're afraid of. It's an iron law. It's happening. They're afraid of it. It scares them. When Charlottesville happened and then President Trump said, well, there's good people on both sides, that was widely criticized. But I don't think it was felt anywhere as viscerally as it was felt here. Two of the people killed that day were state troopers that I knew quite well. So Heather Heyer, the paralegal who was killed, I did not know her. I felt like I got to know her as we learned about her life. But Troopers Bates and Cullen, one flew me virtually every time I was in a helicopter when I was governor, and the other had been part of Terry McCall's security detail. I got to know him really well. And so, and people in this community had a really intimate connection with that tragic day, and to have a president, I mean, this was a president who, just remember this, between Election Day and Inauguration Day, a young man of Middle Eastern descent drove a car into a crowd at Ohio State University, injured some people, and Donald Trump flew to Ohio State to call it terrorism and comfort the families. And then a Middle Eastern individual drove a car into a crowd in Los Ramblas in Barcelona, and he immediately called it terrorism. But when it happened, 90 miles from the nation's capital, in the home of an iconic American president, there's good people on both sides. I mean, his moral obtuseness about just calling evil evil was infuriating.
Senator Kaine's break from the campaign trail was short-lived, though. He had a campaign stop scheduled for 5 p.m. today in Portsmouth. The senator is expected to easily win his re-election bid. He leads his Republican challenger, Corey Stewart, by double digits in almost every valid poll out there. But both candidates are campaigning like the polls mean nothing. The election is exactly 29 days away from today. Now, if you like your news balanced, you can join us tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. We will be going live at a Corey Stewart pro-ICE rally. In Charlottesville, Theodore Whitelow, Breaking Through News.